And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me is my good brother here in the temple, the man of 1,000 runes, the CEO of Zadara Enterprises, and the bane of my fucking existence, good brother Xanatrix.
Zadara Enterprises would like to remind you once again that there are many naysayers in this world, and they want you to not enjoy the things that you love. Zadara Enterprises is not one of them. Our localization branch only gives the finest and most what's the word, monk?
Faithful?
Yes, faithful. That's the best word. Faithful translations anywhere that can be seen. Why? Because we value the original intent. On top of that, Zadara Enterprises R&D department, especially our mecha department, is doing quite well. We've only had a casualty rate of 35% this month. That's improved from the previous 80%. Join today
Remember, service guarantees citizenship, and by citizenship we mean pilot's license.
And a giant robot. Everybody gets their own standard issue giant robot.
But we are not here to dive into giant robots in a tabletop sense, although we probably will in the future. Keep an eye out.
But it won't be Mechton. As much as we love Mechton, that is something that we don't need to dive into.
One, everybody more or less, everybody who knows about Mechton knows about it in one form or another. Two, I think covering Mechton is something that should be reserved for a different kind of show, not necessarily Valley of the Judged.
It should be a geek watch about the greatness of the Pondsmith family and our Talsorian games.
3, we kind of already touched on Mechton when we did when we messed around with life paths, like 3 years ago. and 4, Mechton. If we did if I'm being honest, whenever it comes to Mechton, I always say if you're gonna go into it, if you want to see the full Monty of what it can do, dive into it with Mechton Plus as well. Like those two should always be presented in a bundle, much like 13th Age and 13 True Ways.
Yes, this is true.
I also warn people, the customization with Mechton is a double-edged sword. And I know some might say, why is it a double-edged sword? The customization is great. You can do just about anything. Yeah, that's why it's a double-edged sword. Much in the same way as you can do anything with a Universalist RPG is a double-edged sword.
There are always going to be cons to that sort of layout and system. Luckily, our Talsorian games and Pondsmith are a little bit better with guidance than most Universalist games.
Yeah. I mean, plus the closest thing that they've done to something Universalist was Fusion, and Fusion's a whole other rabbit hole that maybe I'll cover when I'm sufficiently drunk.
However, rails, Monk.
Yeah. So getting back on the rails, we are back with our coverage of Gods of Metal Ragnarok. This time around it's another double feature because we're dealing with 2 shorter chapters. Power Moves and Anthems.
Now, we've heard some mentions of both throughout the previous chapters, that power moves are something special and unique, some sort of special action that your avatar takes based on the powers you've gotten from the god of metal you are devoted to and the aspects of metal which they embody. And that anthems are basically these things, except band-wide and even more powerful. Now, that is a gross oversimplification, but I think a good summary at the very least.
Mm-hmm. So, with that said, let's get started with power moves.
All right. As an avatar of the heavy metal gods of Ragnarok, you are imbued with special powers. Divine energy from the latent powers of the Court of Creation has manifested in you. Fucking rad as that is, you're still facing near impossible odds, so it's time to start honing your abilities. An avatar's power moves are what define them as an individual, and there are infinite combinations of abilities you can take on or even create yourself to make your character unique. In the coming pages, you'll be guided in the selection of a number of tiered abilities that can be added to your arsenal. Each power move comes with specific conditions and requirements, and some will grow and improve depending on how much you invest in them throughout your Gods of Metal Ragnarok campaign. It's worth noting that some power moves create exceptions to other rules within the game. That is intentional, so when that happens, always follow the exception rather than the base rule it alters. That's a nice little caveat there. Hey, this special move you're using modifies the way the game plays. Obviously use the specific instead of the generality. And then we have earning a power move.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to the power moves an avatar starts with, avatars earn A power moves, that's supposed to be a power move, each time they increase in notoriety. An avatar may also choose to upgrade a power move instead of earn a new one. The only limitation in choosing a power move or upgrade is that once an avatar has chosen their tone and position during character creation, they must choose options that are listed under the tone and position. And then they have a little chart here that shows notoriety from 0 to 10, has some asterisks regarding general power moves, tonal power moves, and positional power moves and upgrades. And the list shows that at character creation, you choose one general power move, you get one tonal power move, one promotional power move, but no upgrades. And going up from there, it shows when you would get power moves or upgrade chances depending on your notoriety level.
Mm-hmm. And of course, it's divided between the 4 types: general, tonal, positional, and upgrade.
Yeah,
I will note a bit of a pet peeve I have with this chart. You see 1 asterisk for general and 2 asterisks for upgrade, but it doesn't state what those asterisks entail.
might be on the next page.
But anyway, then we have activating a power move. Power moves are broken down into 5 major parts: the name, self-explanatory; the effect, also self-explanatory; the activation, when a power move can be used. Some can only be activated during combat, while others require specific movements such as being attacked. Some can also be activated out of combat. Performance pool, the types of performance pool used to generate tributes to pay the cost. Any feedback generated from any performance pool contributes towards your feedback threshold. Cost, what the player must either drum up or pay in order to activate the power move. And then we go into a bit of an example. Oh, and a note when it comes to some of the abbreviations we're going to see. So N for notoriety, T for tribute spent, D for dedications from the altar. Other costs which may be used: H is hits applied to your meat track, and F being hits applied to your feedback track. So we have a minimum level for some of these. That would be notoriety. We have the tributes and dedications part, but also your cast from HP kind of thing.
Yeah. You may have to cast from your meat body or from your feedback.
Mm-hmm.
May not be the best idea to use your power moves willy-nilly.
And given the fact that we've made a lot of World of Darkness analogies, I can't help but be reminded of charms when I see how they're describing power moves.
I can see it.
It's not a 1-to-1, but the energy's there.
Yeah, like I said, I can see it.
I know some might say, why didn't you use say some of the powers that are in World of Darkness games? I'm like, this reminds me more of charms than any of those. This doesn't remind me of the powers that are in Vampire, and it certainly doesn't remind me anything of, say, spells and mage.
We won't get into why all mages are broken and can eventually ignore Paradox.
Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like tackling old and new World of Darkness would be several videos worth on their own, and there's plenty of people who are already doing deep dives on World of Darkness. I will just say that anything Onyx Path Publishing touches turns to shit. But we start with general power moves, which are the first ones are at notoriety 0. Do we want to go through each one, or do we want to play it loose?
There's a lot of power moves, especially once we get into tonal and into positional power moves, because those are going to be power moves based on the tone from your god, and then on your position, which is, as we've gone over, is your class. this is essentially like going through a giant spell list. And we don't tend to go through giant spell lists directly. Because this, if it, when we looked at this, we figured we'd probably talk about what power moves are, and then I think we even said we were going to skip straight to making your own power moves. Yeah, because this is a lot of just let's read the spell, its activations, its costs, and its performance pools things. I think this is usually something we would skip. We would not usually go over a spell list.
That said, we can obviously cover some highlights.
Yeah. I mean, maybe let's pick one from our favorite position and one from our favorite tone.
I'm thinking for general, let's go with one that sticks out to us at each notoriety.
Okay.
So, obviously, notoriety 0 would be the equivalent of cantrips.
Well, it's also things that you can learn at character creation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this isn't, just so everybody realizes, notoriety, this is not like caster levels in the world's most litigious RPG. This is literally saying these are power moves you can pick up during character creation when you have no notoriety.
Yeah. If anything, the notoriety thing, this is one more reason why I was thinking of charms. Because one of the key gatekeeping methods, for lack of a better term, when it comes to getting more advanced charms is what your essence dots are.
Yeah. Personally, out of the 4 that are available at notoriety 0 for general power moves, the only one that really screams to me is imbue primal energy.
Mm-hmm.
When you purchase this power move, choose a primal energy type. Your next attack will deal damage of the chosen primal energy type. You can also upgrade it so that the next 2 attacks will deal damage of the chosen primal energy. And the activation can happen out of combat or in combat as a cool thing. And if you'll remember the action economy, the cool things are your big actions, the basic things are your smaller actions. The cost is none, and the performance pool is none.
Mm-hmm.
What about you at notoriety 2 there, Monk?
Yeah, notoriety 2. I'm torn between parental guidance and fuck your noise.
I fucking knew it. I fucking knew it was going to be one of those two. I was like, he's going to choose one of those two.
I'm not choosing parental guidance because that's basically just the hint button that you've seen in every Sierra game ever.
Yeah.
So instead I'm going with fuck your noise. Cancel the activation of an enemy ability. The amount of tributes needed to cancel is based on the type of enemy. If you do not, this power move fails to activate. Activation in combat as a cool thing. Cost 1 tribute for Schlub, 2 tributes for Horde, 3 for Elite, 4 for Solo, 5 for Boss, and 6 for Legendary. Performance pool, Cram or Forge.
Hold on, Solo? I don't think we saw a Solo level in combat. We saw Schlub, Horde, Elites, Bosses, and Legendaries. Huh? Hold on.
Unless this is an artifact.
Might be an artifact. I'm trying to find the enemy type. Well, I think we'll find more later. We'll see. I'm not going to take too much time looking for it. Regardless. So notoriety 5, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, jeez.
What?
There's a hard choice here, but I think I'm going to go with I can do it better. Once per combat, when you harmonize with one or more bandmates, you can choose one power move they have learned that would be available at the band's current notoriety. Until the end of combat, you may use that power move. So activation is in combat when you harmonize. Cost is 1 dedication from the altar.
It's our mimicry series. It's our mimicry job.
Apropos for tomorrow.
Yes. And as far as notoriety 8, I think I'll pick. I think I'll pick Wait and Bleed because I understand that reference.
So do I.
Take up to 6 hits on your meat track and target any number of bandmates within spitting distance, not including yourself. You may immediately heal twice that amount of hits split however you like among the targeted bandmates. Activation, out of combat or in combat as a cool thing. Cost, 1 to 6 hits on your meat track. Performance pool, none. It's sacrifice meets lay on hands.
Yeah, and depending on how you spend this, you could immediately put yourself in the third part of the meat track to give yourself all them cool auto success dice and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yep.
But then we get to the positional. We start to get to the position power moves.
And I do, since it's been a few weeks, I do think we should do a quick refresher on positions.
So positions are your role within the band. They are essentially, and I say essentially because they are the classes, sort of, kind of.
If I'm carrying the Exalted comparison, these are aspects.
Yeah.
Or aspects for like Dragon-blooded, casts for the majority of the others. I'm not getting into the Autochthonians. That's a whole other thing. For the most part, it's casts for everybody except the Dragon-blooded.
Yeah. The positions give you the things you're good at.
Mm-hmm. I suppose it'd be better to say it's the things you're better at.
No, we have to. This is a game about heavy metal monk. We have to say it the right way. These packages give you the things you're badass at.
All right.
There we go.
That works.
So, I don't know if doing one for each notoriety is a good idea, considering the notorieties are smaller, or smaller packages.
Yep. I will note I will note the one simply titled. This one goes to 11.
Heh. I understand that reference.
Target a bandmate. That bandmate may double the dice in any performance pool they roll until your next activation. Activation in combat as a cool thing. Costs 1 dedication. No performance pool.
It's a pretty good one for an amp lord.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the Bloodguard, I mean, I'm going to go with a notoriety 10 move because I understand this reference too. We're not going to take it. Once per battle, when a bandmate within grabbing distance is attacked by an enemy, you may attempt to intercept an attack meant for them. Roll your defense performance pool. If you do not roll any tributes, you may still choose to take the damage in place of your bandmate. If you roll at least 2 tributes, you may ignore all damage that would have been dealt to you and deal twice that much damage to the enemy instead. Activation in combat when a bandmate is attacked. Costs 2 dedications, and then no performance pool because, as it said, you roll your defense performance.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is a notable power move from the Brutalizer series, Monk?
I was really tempted to go with Witness Me, but no, too obvious. So I'll instead go with Summon Broham. Summon your exact copy in spirit form. The spirit has one hit on the meat track, cannot attack, and has your same defense stat. Any enemy able to target the spirit will do so until it is destroyed, dismissed by you as a free action at any time, or 5 rounds have passed. Only one such spirit can be summoned at any time. Upgrade, the spirit has 2 hits on the meat track instead. Activation in combat is a cool thing. Costs 1 tribute. Performance pool is feelings.
That's a pretty good one.
It is basically summoning decoy in second runner.
Yep. Then we have the Chord Master power moves. Okay, holy shit, I have to go with This Is My Domain.
I thought you were going to go with BFPE.
I mean, BFPE was tempting, but, you know, This Is My Domain. Choose a primal type. You reshape the area up to amphitheater distance around you. All enemies within the zone take 2 hits. Any non-legendary enemies who have not yet activated now must harmonize at the end of the combat round and must use their basic thing to stand and recover before using any other action or movement. An additional dedication will cause massive structural damage to the landscape and any buildings within the affected area. In combat is a cool thing, either 1 dedication just for activation or 2 for the extra effect, and no performance pool.
Mm-hmm.
What about Howler power moves there, Monk?
Let's see. I have to do it. I have to pick the last one that's on the list. Louder Than Hell.
Of course.
Yes, I'm aware that Manowar has been making the same 10 songs for 30 years, but I don't fucking care.
Neither does Manowar.
Well, if you bring it up to them, they'd be like, "What?"
Yep. They wouldn't care.
But once per combat, you may summon a horde of adoring fans. Roll any performance pool and give this horde 3 damage per tribute. They can attack 3 times, and when they attack, they target all enemies within a stage-sized zone. They always harmonize with the avatar and are not required to attack every activation, but once the 3rd attack is completed, they dissipate. Activation in combat is a cool thing, costs 3 dedications, no performance pool. It's a flash mob.
Well, no specific performance pool. You can choose any performance pool, and anyone who does is going to choose their highest performance pool because it's going to be the largest amount of possible tributes. And then, of course,
This
if
is
you get a lot of tributes.
This is literally weaponizing your fan base.
Yep.
But
This is what they accuse every social media influencer of doing.
and
Which
we've had plenty of villains in both comic books and anime that are taking the process a bit literally.
Mm-hmm.
I believe even Hiroaka had that one guy who was basically a politician whose voice could get people angry.
Yep. As for Shredder, I'm going to choose Brown Note for obvious reasons. You unleash through your instrument an unholy noise that lashes out at your enemies and causes them to unleash their bowels in fear. All enemies who can hear you within stage distance take 1 hit and cannot move until after your next activation. You may increase the hits dealt by 1 for each dedication spent, maximum of 3 hits. Activation in combat as a cool thing costs up to 3 dedications and has no performance pool.
Mm-hmm.
I was really tempted to take the Sound of Silence, but
Although
Ground Note was funnier.
I do like that one of the other ones is called Great Artist Steal.
Yeah.
And after that, we start having the power moves from the metal gods.
Yeah, from the tones.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, tones are which metal god you have devoted your avatar to. Gives you thematically appropriate stuff, including thematically appropriate power moves.
Mm-hmm. But first we have Aznaba and Aznubaba, sorry. And I would say one of them that I'd pick out is Injury from Insult. Once per combat, when you would take up to 3 feedback, you may instead add an equal number of dedications to the altar. Upgrade, you may instead use this ability twice per combat. So in activation and combat, when you take feedback, no cost, no performance pool.
Basically, when you're about to take a heavy dose of feedback, you're like, nope, that's altar tributes instead. Bye!
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty good one. I like it.
Yeah.
But now we go into Diomidius.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's one that I'm seeing that is screaming at me to suggest, and it's in Notoriety 7, and you know exactly why.
I know exactly which one it is. Yes. I'm tempted on that one and on one of them in Notoriety 1. But you know what? I'm still going to go with Notoriety 7 here. Holy Diver. Choose a primal energy type. Until the end of combat, all damage dealt matching that primal energy type are doubled. In combat, as a cool thing, costs 2 tributes, and your performance pool that you have to roll is either Implore or Magicka.
That could combo really well with the one we covered from general power moves.
Yup. Remember, Diomidius likes giving people fire powers too, so kind of figures though. It is Dio after all.
Yeah, and hell, in that music video, he had a flaming sword.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, then we have Fenrir. And let's see. Found it. Notoriety 9, the Ace of Spades.
I fucking knew it.
Once per session, when asked to roll a performance pool, you may instead instantly succeed with 3 tributes. Upgrade, you may also add dedications to the altar equal to your notoriety.
Since this is Notoriety 9, and remember that the altar can only hold dedications equal to your team notoriety plus your number of bandmates. This just adds 9 notoriety to your fucking band.
Mm-hmm.
Or 9 dedications. You're like, oh, there you go, guys. Spend whatever you need.
Yep. Activation out of combat or in combat when making any performance pool roll. Costs 1 dedication, no performance pool.
Yep. Then we have the Kekatari power moves. I have to go with it, Monk. Ride the lightning.
Yep.
Until the end of combat, anytime you deal sky primal energy damage to any enemies, you may push an enemy up to a stage distance away from you. And the upgrade is amphitheater distance. Activation in combat is a cool thing, costs 1 tribute, and the performance pool is Implore or Magicka. I had to do Ride the Lightning for 2 reasons, and Monk knows both of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I do know both of them.
For anybody who needs a hint, say Kishidan Ogi!
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Nobody's gonna get that reference, Anne. Yes, they are. What do you think of Calamity's power moves?
Yeah. Hang on a moment. So let's see. I'd say the is there? And I'll go with Killed by Death, which is notoriety 9. Once per session, you may enter into a blood-soaked rage. Until the end of combat, ignore any damage you would take. Instead, keep track of it separately and add it to the damage you deal with each of your attacks. When there are no enemies left to fight, you immediately take all the damage you would have taken. This damage cannot be prevented in any way. Activation in combat is a cool thing. Costs 2 dedications. Performance pool, none.
And then finally we have Shrika. I have to do it, Monk. Wild Stallions would be upset if I didn't do it. Every rose has its thorn. Once per combat, you may target up to 3 enemies within spitting distance. For their next 2 activations, those enemies must target other enemies with their attacks and abilities if able. If they are unable to target other enemies, they must target your bandmates instead. Activation is in combat is a cool thing. Cost is 2 dedications, and there's no performance pool.
Mm-hmm.
But then we get to the last section about crafting your own power moves. The power moves listed in this book are just a small sample of what is possible with power moves, and we aren't the ultimate authority on everything super cool and awesome that you can accomplish in Ragnarok. Trust us, we tried, and this ended up being the best opinion. If you are feeling industrious and want to truly customize your avatar, it is not only possible to work alongside your Metal Maestro to generate some power moves that are not listed within the core rules, it's highly encouraged. That said, a little narrative reskinning goes a long way when it comes to making your epic metal fantasy dreams come true. And they have an example of someone making a power move called Shark Bite. It says, until the end of combat, your attacks do 1 extra damage. Activation is in combat is a cool thing. Cost is 1 tribute and 1 dedication, and the performance pool is wilds. As the Metal Maestro, you have the ultimate say about if/how this process is going to work for you and your playgroup. If you do proceed, be sure to remain fair to other players. Ultimately, it's about everyone having fun and doing cool things. Also, keep in mind that if someone is not playing a certain tone or position, or making a new god, there should rightfully be an additional cost to cherry-picking abilities from those sources. Be sure to read in the later chapters about your duties and responsibilities as a game leader.
Mm-hmm. Although the sample custom power they give, Shark Bite, missed opportunity. Should have called it Fast as a Shark. I mean, this isn't a, this. It's very clear that it's playing somewhat fast and loose with this, but this is. I'd say the whole creating your own power moves thing is something I'd only recommend to people after a few sessions. I wouldn't recommend making custom power moves right out of the gate unless you're crazy people like you and me. And even then, I can see why there was that warning about doing that when it came to if somebody wanted to pick one of the new gods.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a good amount that could be reskinned or could play half seas. I don't think there's any outright rule or any outright consistency on how many power moves are in each category at each notoriety. There does seem to be somewhat of a rule of 2 when it comes to the ones from the metal gods.
Mm-hmm.
And to a certain extent, I think it's also applicable with the positions. Not so much with general.
Mm.
Though truth be told, I think if custom power moves are to be used, I think that they should be ones related to either one of the new gods or one of the metal gods.
It's definitely going to with the customization that's available. A lot of that's going to be on both players and the Metal Maestro.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that this is a case of swim damn it for either side. This is more a case of, hey, here's some examples of things you can do. Uh, see if that's going to suit your play group, and if so, try it out.
Yeah. It's not like this is not a game that is all that concerned with being the level of balance that some more simulation style affairs want to be.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got some pretty abstracted distances, you know. So there's it's clearly not grid-based combat for one.
Mm-hmm.
And for two, you're fucking demigod avatars of the gods of metal. Come on now.
But that brings us to Anthems. And it does go into right off the gate noting advanced rules. Um, Anthems are special power moves that require the members of a band to collect their abilities together in a single ultramassive combination attack that utilizes the strengths of each bandmate. Anthems are made at the end of each major story milestone or session, depending on the Metal Maestro. They can and should represent the amazing things your band has accomplished and the glory and stories they wish to share with the world of Ragnarock. Sometimes you experience a moment filled with so much awesomeness that it must be captured and immortalized, thereby allowing you to experience it again and again. Creating Anthems is about tapping a small amount of the chord of creation and amplifying its magic with your and your bandmates' own special touch to make incredible things happen. Anthems act in a similar way to Avatar's individual abilities. The difference is that they are created collaboratively and based off a unique moment in a campaign. In addition, they require the involvement of the entire band in order to, quote-unquote, cast, and tributes in order to execute. However, like many things in Gods of Metal Ragnarok, you and your bandmates can customize how the anthem is expressed in a way that fits your flavor best. And then we have building an anthem. I'll let you take that.
Alrighty then. So, with building an anthem, to craft a bodacious album, each bandmate involved in the anthem can contribute a single anthem option, which are determined by their tones, positions, and any gear from the list of anthem abilities below. With the permission and guidance of your Metal Maestro, you can alter options or create new ones, but the list offers a healthy selection to get you and your gaming group started. After creating an anthem, the band is encouraged to name the unique power move around a particularly awesome moment or event that occurred during the session or arc. We have anthem options. When making an anthem, each member of the band will contribute a single anthem option. That should be option available to them. Anthem options are available via their position, tone, and any discovered gear which the Metal Maestro may award. They often look like this, and the example they give is Anthem option. Target all enemies in a stage-sized zone. Costs 1 dedication. Then we have awarding anthem options. When a band performs well together during the course of their adventure, they might be given the option to create a unique anthem amongst themselves. The Metal Maestro may make this choice based on excellent roleplay and collaborative storytelling because of a narrative threshold that has been met or because of the needs of a particular scenario. And then finally, forming the anthem. Each bandmate will choose one anthem option from their list of anthem options and total up the costs associated with each one. Along with the Metal Maestro, they will then narratively come up with how the anthem option combination is expressed and describe how the anthem is cast. Do you leap on top of each other to form a pyramid? Does one bandmate fling another into the enemy? Record these details since appropriate combat zoning may be required in order to execute the anthem.
Did they just reference the fastball special?
They referenced the fastball special and several different Sentai groups.
Yeah, I thought so.
Naming the anthem. Customizing the anthem is part of the fun of creating it. And then there's a weird comma in the middle of all of that. Work alongside your bandmates to slap an appropriate moniker on your shared combination power. If you find yourself stuck, why not take a gander at the back cover of some of your favorite metal albums? They're a treasure trove of inspiration. And unleashing an anthem. Activating an anthem is similar to a power move, but it requires all of the bandmates present when the anthem was made. During any one of the bandmates' activations, they can choose to use their cool thing to activate one anthem. Just like a power move, you must first pay the cost. In addition to the cost, the entire band must be within a stage-sized zone together, and all band members must still be in Ragnarock and not in Mundania. So if anyone's on hiatus, you can't do the anthem that you designed alongside them. Mm-hmm. Anthems can only be unleashed once per battle or session, whichever is longer. Anthem, Prize of the Stone Lord. This is an example anthem, by the way. Requires 4 characters and their 4 effects. One avatar makes an attack with X damage to a target or zone where X is the notoriety of the band. The anthem affects all enemies in a single spitting-sized zone. The anthem deals primal damage Earth. And for the duration of the battle, all of you can hear each other regardless of location. Then there's a section here that says Anthem Modules. Just like power moves, there's no limit to possibilities when it comes to anthem options. We've created a few examples here, but there's nothing more satisfying than forging something on your own with your band. Even questing to find anthem options hidden in the world are amazing ways to make the glory you find in Ragnarok into something you can bring into battle. And then we get a list of anthem options. I think that this list we can actually go through in full because it's 2 pages.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll leave you with generics.
Yep. Also, Brian is saying, what if everyone is in Mundania, doing a human Megazord on the street for no reason?
They'd be killed by the executors.
Yeah.
Remember that the executors put permanent marks on your record for going against the status quo and not keeping things exactly as the executors want in Mundania. Mm-hmm. 3 permanent records, and they take care of you permanently. If you did that in the middle of the streets in Mundania with your bandmates, all of you and your bandmates would die at the same time.
But as we have for the generics, the anthem options aren't given names by design. So the first one is create a target that includes X individual enemies that can be affected by anthem options, where X is your notoriety. Cost 2 dedications. Create a target zone that be affected by anthem options. Cost 1 dedication, grappling, 2 dedications, spitting, 3 dedications, stage, 4 dedications, amphitheaters, 5 dedications, WTF. Then we have roll an attack of X, dealing Y damage, where X and Y are the total dedications spent in the cost. Cost up to 20 dedications.
Jesus.
Or create a target that is a type of non-boss enemy in the battle. 1 dedication, Schlub. 2 dedications, Hordes. 3 dedications, Solos. 4 dedications, Elites. And create giant pillars which raise band members up to stage distance high. Cost 1 dedication. Send a massive bolt of energy using a primal type available to the band member that deals X damage, where X is your notoriety. Costs 1 dedication. Summon X cosmic entities, which manifest as a horde of your description with 1 hit and 5 threshold. They last until either killed or dispelled. Up to X dedications.
I think they forgot to put a number of how many dedications that can go up to. I think they forgot. I'd also like to note that on the next pages, both the tone and position anthem options are mixed up because it's just going in alphabetical order after generic. So I'll take down to Chordmaster and then give you Diomidius.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Amp Lord anthem options. For the duration of the anthem, all the weapons carried by your bandmates share the same primal type as your weapon. Cost is 1 dedication. And the anthem's duration is extended by X rounds. Cost is 1 dedication. What's X rounds decided by? I think that needs more. It doesn't tell you what X rounds is decided by, especially when the cost is 1 dedication.
I'm guessing the intent is supposed to be one dedication per round, but yeah.
Well, it could be that, or it could be where X is your notoriety, because we've seen that too. Then we have Aznubaba anthem options. All bandmates ignore feedback damage for their first round of combat following this anthem. Costs 2 dedications. Anthem option, all attacks made by you and your bandmates deal mind/sonic damage in addition to their other types for the duration of the anthem. Cost is 1 dedication.
Mm-hmm.
In Bloodguard, you and your fellow bandmates double the healing during the next heal each bandmate receives. Costs 1 dedication. Eliminate 1 feedback for every Bloodguard in your band. Costs 1 dedication. That one could be pretty good if you have multiple Bloodguards.
Mm-hmm.
Brutalizer anthem options. Enemies can't use feedback abilities for the duration of the anthem. Costs 1 dedication. You and your companions all deal double damage for the duration of the anthem. Costs 1 dedication. And Chordmaster anthem options. Boost a member of the band's defense by X up to a maximum of 3 per member for the duration of the anthem, and the cost is X dedication. So if you have a band of 4, it's a max of 3 per member. You could do up to X, up to 12, which means you then have to also spend 12 dedication. And then primal energy damage dealt by an enemy is turned into a different primal energy of the anthem user's choice. Cost is 1 dedication. And that leaves you at Diomidius, and I'll let you take us out all the way down to Shrika Monk.
Mm-hmm. I don't know why this isn't all bold, but...
It's only for Diomidius, too. Maybe he's just that cool.
Mm-hmm. There's create a wall of flame that deals 10 fire damage to enemies in a zone about amphitheater size and forces them up to spitting distance away from the wall. Costs 1 dedication. Or nobody can go on hiatus for the duration of the anthem, even if their feedback track is full. Costs 1 dedication.
Pork chop. They said 20 dedications for a previous anthem option, not for the anthem option that I was talking about.
Mm-hmm. Then we have the options for Fenrir. A bandmate can sacrifice their action to double the damage another bandmate deals on an attack. Costs 2 dedication. Or the bandmate that activates this option doubles their speed for the duration of the anthem. Costs 1 dedication. See, then we have Howler. Allied avatars within stage distance of a Howler can reroll 1 die per activation during the anthem. Or they can summon duplicates of the band for the duration of the anthem. When attacked by an enemy, roll the 4-sided die. Shouldn't it be roll a 4-sided die, because that's all you're going to be rolling? On a 1, the enemy hits the target and the duplicates go away. On a 2 to 4, the attack misses. Costs 3 dedications. It's image. For Kakatari, we have either force enemies to duel each avatar individually. All other enemies fall still while the duels take place. And you can't generate feedback for the duration of the anthem.
Both of those cost each 1 dedication.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, then Calamity. One option, all damage each member of the band takes for the duration of the anthem instead heals that amount of health on the meat track. Cost 1 dedication. Or all attacks made by you and your band deal necrotic damage in addition to their other types for the duration of the anthem. Let's see, and for
hold on a
1
second.
dedication. Wait,
Hold
is there
on a
necrotic
second.
damage?
That's what I'm trying to check. I think that's an artifact. Because you have, of the 6 primal types, Stone and Sky, Ice and Fire, Shadow and Metal. I think that's an artifact.
But then we have Shredder. One option, reflect the next X damage that your enemies use right back at them, where X is the total combined notoriety of the band, costs 2 dedication. Or you and your companions can each take 2 activations per round for the duration of the anthem, costs 1 tribute.
Costing a tribute doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's odd. Then Shrika, push enemies X zones away, but each enemy has to be targeted individually, costs X dedication. Or for the duration of the anthem, all of you can hear each other regardless of where you are. Does not include Mundania. Costs 1 dedication.
Yeah. The reason the one that says cost 1 tribute doesn't make sense is because you don't roll for an anthem. You don't have a performance pool. So that's supposed to be 1 dedication is probably just an artifact.
Yeah. I'd say if there's any issue we have here, it's the fact that there's some weird artifacts that the editing team didn't quite catch.
The more specific ones are things like summon X cosmic entities which manifest as a horde of your description with 1 hit and 5 threshold. They last until either killed or dispelled, up to X dedications. What's X dedications?
Yeah. I feel like I haven't checked. I haven't been on Hunter's Entertainment's site in a while, but I'm hoping there was some errata.
I hope so too.
But beyond that, I do like the Anthem system. You know, I will always support any sort of mechanic that encourages team play, and this definitely does that. And because of how this is set up, it actually encourages a decent-sized band. I would not recommend playing Gods of Metal Ragnarok as a duet, just based on what we've been seeing so far.
Yeah. I mean, you could. There are some solo acts that have done very well. Hello, Slash, but that's the exception, not the rule.
Not everybody can be Yngwie Malmsteen. The other thing to note, but the big thing to note when it comes to this is the fact that it is a little bit rough in places. Mainly when it came to anthems, we didn't have as many issues with artifacts in power moves. And one thing I could easily see myself doing if I was to do a in-person version of this is put the power moves onto cards.
That'd be fun.
Because I don't think any of the power moves are big enough that it would require something more than the size of the standard playing card. And I could easily whip up a deck of all the power moves on like Magic Set Editor or something like that. I've done that plenty of times.
Yeah, there's some pretty easy ways to make cards of them. But of course, then there's still the issue of what if you have players who want to make their own power moves because they just don't feel like any other power moves really fit their character.
Well, then I'd ask them to submit the format for it. I'll look over it and then decide from there.
Yep, you guys will discuss it and just determine how the power move is gonna be, and then you can make a card for it.
That being said, now that we have it's very clear that the bulk of the complexity of what you're going to be able to do in and out of combat is going to come from power moves. And because of that, this is why I'm glad that the resource management is one that is going to be a bit more aggressive. Playing conservative with, say, MP or spell charges like you do in some more litigious fantasy games isn't really going to fly here. You're going to be expected to to gain and lose these resources quite a bit.
Well, yeah, especially dedications to the altar. as I mentioned earlier, and to go into a little more depth here, the altar can only hold as many dedications as your band's average notoriety level plus the number of bandmates. So if you're at notoriety 4 and you have 4 bandmates, your altar can only hold 8 dedications. So you need to be spending those dedications to make sure that you still got space on the altar to tribute more dedications from your excess tributes if necessary. You can also spend your tributes on any performance pool you perform to get an even higher set of successful outcomes, depending on how many tributes you want to spend. But there's going to be a lot of, oh man, I rolled some 4s. I want to put like one of these on the altar, and I want to use these 2 to do something awesome. And then, one of your bandmates is going to go, man, I need to use this power move, and I need a dedication for the altar, dude. Thanks. And so that happens. There's going to be a lot of fast and loose with these resources, and that's actually pretty fun. And also absolutely metal.
Yeah. Like if you want to play slow and tactical, this is not the game for you.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you'd be better served playing maybe. What's a good one for me to pick on?
Do we really need to pick on anybody? We're having a good day today. Sort of.
One of those ones that wants to do 3 paragraphs worth of rules regarding passage of time or something.
Simulationist games have their place, Monk. They're just not for us.
Look, I pick on simulationism quite a bit, but the reason why I do it is not because I have some hate boner for it, but more that I am very critical of the attitudes of some folk who seem to think that simulation makes a game better or allows for better roleplay. That is not true. Simulation can be just as much of a hindrance as anything else can be. It is ultimately something that depends on the table. Furthermore, not every style of storytelling is going to suit simulation style games. I wouldn't want to see a passage of time thing in something that's in something like this, because it is meant to be this over-the-top epic. And it knows that it's supposed to be an over-the-top epic, and it doesn't try to ground that in realism.
The only time realism hits you is when you're back in Mundania, and even then it's not very realistic.
This is why I've had that mantra of believability over realism.
Yep. Pork Chop says, A Time of War, Mech Warrior, A Time of War, and Battletech Destiny.
I've already covered A Time of War, and I basically said it's trying to do too much at once. And I haven't delved too much into Battletech Destiny, but I remember that it used the queue system from Shadowrun Anarchy, which I actually didn't mind. It's as it being a nice alternative. And he said for simulationist games. I don't consider Battletech Destiny to be simulationist. A Time of War, oh yeah. And like I said, it's trying to do way, way, way too much. Oh. That and maybe consider using a BattleTech TTRPG to give some spotlight to other aspects of the inner sphere and the periphery. I know this might sound counterproductive, but you don't have to assume that your player characters are going to be mech warriors.
I mean, the BattleTech, while BattleTech does tend to revolve around the people that are mech warriors, Monk, because of the minis game. You're right. You don't have to be a mech warrior. You can be something squished by a mech warrior.
I don't know. There's whole story arcs just dedicated to the more clandestine warfare that some of the great houses, Comstar and the like, get onto, especially Comstar. I don't think
I
it's
mean, is there?
unreasonable to want to emulate that.
Well, I know. I'm just. I was about to say though, is anything Comstar does clandestine when they're pointing a gun in your face and telling you not to interfere?
Yeah, because sometimes they don't
That's
even go that far.
pay your bill, or we're going to annex your entire star sector. What? Pay your bill.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, everybody, a Comstar bill paid keeps paying off of your ass.
But and Brian says there are two types of stealth. One, nobody notices you. Two, nobody is left to notice you.
Ah, the Steiner Scout Squad method of stealth. Yes.
But just with 100% less bees in my cockpit.
Anybody who doesn't get that reference, you need to watch more Beeple.
Mm-hmm. Now, that being said, next week we will be diving into gear, and that is going to have its own quirks.
To be honest, the equipment quirks in this game remind me a bit of the equipment quirks in our own game, just on ethos.
And actually, I just realized, technically speaking, next week is going to be the finale for us for Gods of Metal Ragnarok,
Yep.
which technically makes this the penultimate episode, and also makes this a much shorter season than what we've had before.
It was good to have a shorter season after Planet Bound.
And Dames was pretty beefy, but nothing's gonna top Valhalla as far as the worst games we covered. And
Well, the worst games you've covered. I think you did Valhalla with a.
yeah, that was with Monarch.
Yep.
And I haven't covered a bad enough game with you.
I mean, if we count Level Up 5e.
I don't, because that wasn't bad, it was just disappointing.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Oh. And when and that and when it comes to Long Boys, I don't think anything is going to be more Long Boy than Planet Bound for quite a while, and I dread the day that we ever cover something that's going to be that amount of length.
We do not need another half year's season, Monk.
Mm-hmm.
We don't. We just don't.
Yeah. So
I love Jeremy and Travis to death, but when are we gonna get Jeremy back in this place? I hope he's doing well.
he did say he was. I think he said he was going to call me in June.
Okay. I will look forward to it.
Oh. That being said, next week we will be covering Gear and Advancement, the Metal Maestro, and the Metal Menagerie.
Now, as per how we usually go through these books, the Metal Maestro is the GM advice section, and we'll skim it like we do most GM advice sections. And the Metal Menagerie is a bestiary, which we don't tend to go through full bestiaries.
Mm-hmm.
So
we cover aspects of them, but covering the bestiary would just be covering a bunch of stat blocks.
yep.
And
It's the same reason we don't cover spells in full. It's just covering a bunch of ability blocks.
Yeah. But all that said, I do want to give a sincere thanks to everyone who took the time to come on. We will be back here tomorrow for Cloister the Dice, though that one's going to be a little bit different because we are doing a one-shot of Veil of the Void in keeping with our end-of-month tradition.
We're doing a one-shot of Veil of the Void, and I am playing the troll character.
Mm-hmm.
This
And
is to be expected.
we will have a newcomer coming in as well. And much like the last few one-shots, I'm not GMing.
Yes.
Instead, Trevor is going to be coming back. He's going to be DMing that.
It'll be good to see you, brother Trevor.
Mm-hmm. Uh, good timing since we this it'll be the second time that Veil of the Void has been in the temple this month.
Aye, aye.
Uh, and as far as me, some might say you're going to pick something monk related, aren't you? Actually, no, not this time. Because one, I'd say the closest thing to a quote unquote monk in the system would maybe be the Blade Dancer.
Um, I mean, I guess.
It's a massive stretch. No, instead I picked Combat Medic. Which
Yes.
one might say, wait, you being a healer, isn't that against type? In any other circumstance, you might have a point. I generally don't like playing healers because I don't like playing passive.
Eh.
Which is exactly why Combat Medic is the exception to the rule.
I mean, I think all of Veil of the Void is the exception to that rule. Not even the Naturalist is a passive healer.
No.
And for anyone who wants more information about Veil of the Void as a game, we have a season of it in the playlists on the Monks channel on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. So if you've got a few hours to kill, you can go into that. And fortunately, each of the primary classes has its own episode.
They needed their own episodes. They're very extensive. We love Veil of the Void. We stand Veil of the Void in this house, and anyone who doesn't, piss off.
Mm-hmm. Also, it is going to be appropriate timing because, and I found this out because Trevor had posted this on Twitter. He is in the process of trying to get Roll20 support for Veil of the Void. It is not going to happen tomorrow. I don't imagine it's going to happen until the fall, but it is being worked on.
Fall of Mankind.
And speaking of virtual tabletops and stuff we do, I should also note that a update for the Roll20 sheet for Sword World 2.5 is being developed to integrate it with the spell API system that's on their wiki.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning the sheet will have a dedicated page to spells. It is not ready for release yet. They're having some problems regarding fairy magic.
Well, I mean, fairy magic technically has the most spells, but you can only have 4 branches of it at any time.
Pretty much. But that once that's there, I may try and integrate it for some parts, but only when it's stable enough. I'd imagine that the dry run for it is to see if it's going to work for Sorcerer and and Shaman.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because those are the two, especially Sorcerer. I'd say Sorcerer still is the easiest of the casting classes.
In
terms of complexity.
I mean, it has the most focus. I'll give it that, but that doesn't necessarily make it any easier.
Well, it's not dealing with any sort of subsystem that needs to be accounted for. You know, like the whole fairy type thing that fairy tamers have, or the undead / golems that shamans have.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I meant when I said it's the lowest floor.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying.
As opposed to Warlock, which is still the highest floor. I mean, I was gonna say Druid is low floor, but not exactly. Especially with a good amount of their attack spells, and especially with the ones that use those seals.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I don't expect to see it done for a while.
Yeah.
But with that said, we will be back next time, and of course, on Sunday will be the triumphant return of Geek Watch with one that I'm very certain is not going to be a duet. If it does end up being a duet, I will be very disappointed.
Me too.
But until next time, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.